Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we are still very much in the midst of Depth December, so we're playing a different Dark Depths build. This one is what is traditionally known as Slow Depths. So rather than trying to turbo out the combo, which is something that it can do relatively well because we're playing Hexmage as well as Urborg, and we also have this Mox Diamonds to accelerate us. But for the most part, we're a little bit slower, but we've got a bit more grinding and inevitability, because we have 2 life from the Loam, so we can keep getting back our combo and keep rebuying it, or just some other value lands, whether that's going to be the Ghost Quarter we've got in here, or it could be the Urza Saga, just to keep grinding value. We can keep doing that with our life from the Loam, as well as finding our pieces later on in the game by dredging this into what we want to find. But we've also got a few Abrupt Decays, that's 3 Abrupt Decays to keep ourselves going, and a full set of Thoughtseize to mess with our opponent's hand. Because we're not as all in, we've only got 2 Pithing Needles in the main, but we've got these 4 Dark Confidants to hopefully draw us into, well, what's going to be a lot of land. So hopefully the hits from Dark Confidant should be relatively low. It should pretty much just be a howling mine for us for the most part. We still have the 4 crop rotations to go and find silver bullets, things like Ghost Quarter, for example, or Bojuka Bog, and also our Yavimayas and Urborgs. So if you've been watching my channel, you know roughly how the Dark Depths combo works. You have a Dark Depths in play, and you either target it with Thespian Stage or Vampire Hexmage, and that gives you a 20-20 basically. So the aim of the game is attack our opponent for 20. We can beat them down a little bit with some of these guys and the Urza Saga, but it's generally going to be difficult for us to win without our 20-20. But we have the inevitability to keep trying it over and over. So where the Turbo Depths wants to make the first Dark Depths that gets into play, it wants to make that into a 20-20, protect it enough to kill you with it. We're not interested in that. We can protect it with a Sejiri Steppe and disruption with our Thoughtseizes, but our main aim is going to be make a 20-20. If that doesn't kill you, we're going to do it again. And if that doesn't kill you, we're going to do it again, and we're just going to keep going until we force it through. Now, some of the issues with Slow Depths is, as you can imagine, it's slower, so our opponent can marshal enough resources to keep dealing with them potentially. Alternatively, if they can disrupt us enough, because we're a little bit slower than Turbo Depths, they can kill us with whatever they're doing, whether they're like an aggressive initiative deck or a combo deck. They can sort of get in under us a bit more easily, which is something that the Turbo Depths kind of tries to sidestep by just going really hard and having more tutors and more acceleration to just power it out. So we have strengths and weaknesses, of course. Being able to interact with some things with our Abrupt Decays is certainly nice. We do have Elvish Reclaimers, which can be okay for beatdown, and they're going to be tutoring for us as well. So we've got a few more different lines of attack compared to the Turbo Depths, and the idea is that we're going to eventually blunt our opponent's resources by hammering away over and over. So that's pretty much the main deck. Sideboard-wise, we've got a few different tools. So Leyline is just the best graveyard hate if your opponent is a Reanimator or Oopsal Spells type deck, which is something you see a lot more online than in paper as a general rule. So I wanted Leylines. These could be Endurances, which are probably better in paper, but I think for playing online, the ley lines are just where you want to be. We have 1 Null Rod to hit our opponent's artifacts. Yes, we have some artifacts of our own it can hit, but when we board it in, it's going to be so powerful against our opponent, we don't mind if it blanks a few of our cards. We have these 2 opposition agents, which are mainly there for the combo matchup. So things like Storm decks where they're looking to tutor for specific things to go off. The opposition agent can help there, as well as things like Green-White Depths. We've got a couple of Dark Blasts, which is an interesting one. So this is actually relatively close to a list that one of my subscribers sent me. I've tweaked a few little bits here and there, but the Dark Blast was something they had in their sideboard, and in a world where you sometimes want your Plague Engineer, I can see why you want Dark Blast. You can just keep shredding L's with it, and you keep dredging until it hits your life and below and your win con, and then you can just get it all back and win on 1 turn pretty much. So I don't mind the Dark Blast. It seems to make some amount of sense here. These Virtue's Ruins, in the list I was sent, they were the Dread of Night, which is a 1 mana enchantment. White creatures get -1/-1. I wanted this because the scariest white things, yes, Thalia can be a little bit annoying, but this can blow up all the initiative creatures. So this is something I definitely wanted to have access to. So I thought might as well have this in there to get through. Hall of Gemstone is a bit of an unusual one. If you're not familiar with this one, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses a colour. Until the end of turn, lands tap for mana, produce mana of the chosen colour instead of any other colour. So what this means is our opponents won't be able to cast sorcery speed multicoloured spells. So that blanks Uro, it blanks Minskambu, it blanks Teferi, it blanks Expressive Iteration. So this is going to be in for the like Uroi, Minsk and Boo control decks for the most part. Then we have this one Rite of Consumption. If you can't kill your opponent in combat because of lots of flying blockers or a Glacial Chasm or something like that, the Rite of Consumption just lets you immediately fling your 20/20 at your opponent. Now this could be anything else. The person who sent me this list said they would rather it was a Grafdigger's Cage, but I really like Rite of Consumption. I think it's fine, and we're going to put it in there. It almost certainly should be something else, I think, here. Maybe like another Null Rod or Endurance or another Opposition Agent or something like that. But it's nice if we can get it to go off on channel, so I think we're going to keep this Rite of Consumption in. And the last card to talk about is the Tower of the Magistrate. If your opponent is making lots of Thopters to block your guy, so your Sejiri Steppe can't get through, this will allow your creature to get through all these Thopters. So mainly 8 cast. Alright, I think that's it for talking about the deck. Seems relatively straightforward. I will say there is a slight issue in the fact that we can't blow up any permanents that have converted mana cost 4 or more. We can only do these ones. So we've got Abrupt Decay but no Assassin's Trophy in our 75. Hopefully that won't come up, but it could come up and cost us, but we'll see as we go along. Alright, before we jump into the league, let me just say, likes and subscribes, very welcome. I'm trying to get my subscribers up so I can get monetized, so smash that subscribe button if you can. And if you have already, comments and likes is great. Alright, let's jump into a League of Legacy for this December using green-black slow depths. Our opponent is mulligan to 6. We are on the draw. Then we can keep this hand. Looks pretty strong. We have a bit of interaction. Have ways of getting our combo out with these 2 cards. And we've got the mana to push into the game. So we can probably play Reclaimer Thoughtseize on turn 1, which is a pretty good way to start the game. Now, if our opponent turn 1s us, then fair enough. It's just not something our deck is designed to be. Fint on Elves. This is like the Newton Elves list. So our opponent is just trying to ramp up into natural order. So, I think we are playing our Mox Diamond. We can pitch our Yavimaya here. Then I think we Thoughtseize first. Okay, so we've got Endurance, we've got a Fiend Artisan, we've got Green Sun Zenith, we've got Cradle. I think what's scariest here is probably the Fiend Artisan. We can take the Zenith, which stunts their mana a little bit. I think we just take the Fiend Artisan here. Pop out the hand. Then we'll play this Verdant Catacombs, crack it, go and get ourselves a basic forest at this point because it's going to be a Bayou with an Urborg in play anyway. So, basic forest. We'll play out a Reclaimer. So our opponent can Green Sun Zenith for the Fiend Artisan, which is going to cost them more mana than if I'd have just left the Fiend Artisan in their hand. Now they could get a Collect Roof, but that doesn't really matter for us here. This is fine. Okay, so we have a Ghost Quarter if we want it. We can get rid of the Cradle. So I think this turn we want to be able to get the 20/20 online as soon as possible. So if we play out the Urborg here, I guess we can play out the Ghost Quarter, and that gives us more flexibility in terms of what we sacrifice here. So we can play out this Ghost Quarter. So this time we can go and get the stage and the depths, and then play the Urborg, and then create our 20/20 on our opponent's next turn, which seems fine to me. This line means that we don't get to use the Ghost Quarter. Okay, Wooded Foothills from our opponent. Now cracking the Wooded Foothills for a Dryad Arbor. Is it just a Fiend Artisan sacrifice here? So X is 3. I think we probably do this now because if they're getting an opposition agent, we're in trouble. So we will sacrifice this land, get ourselves a tapped Dark Depths, and still with this on the stack, we will crop rotate away our forest for a Thespian stage. Now our opponent can go and get something different here because we've kind of made the opposition agent less good, but we have to play around the opposition agent there, otherwise our hand doesn't do anything and our Reclaimers are for naught. I don't think we have anything like Fulminator Mage to worry about. I haven't seen that in anyone's lists yet. Well, I do like the idea of being able to go and get land destruction off of your Fiend Artisan, but then again, I like land destruction more than most. There's the opposition agent that we suspected our opponent was getting. So we successfully played around that, and we take 1 damage from their Fint on Elves. Thespian stage. So we play out our Urborg here. We can play out our Elvish Reclaimer as well, because this produces mana now, so both of these can pay for the Thespian stage. Now the question here is, do I need to play around Wasteland or not? Just trying to think what our opponent can find with Fiend Artisan. If they have white stuff, they could find something like a Flicker Wisp. Should be a problem. They might just be on make an endurance. Might just be they're out here. Well, not an out, but it buys them a turn. And we can't go and get the Sejiri Steppe because of the opposition agent. So they're looking for a 1-drop. So that's going to be... What is that going to be? A 1-drop creature that interferes with what we're doing? I don't think there is one that I can recall. It's usually just Mana Dorks and Wild Symbiotes are the 1-drops for our opponent's deck. I don't think a 1-mana card. Could be an Allosaurus Shepherd. I think we have to let this go. Okay, it's just a Reclaimer. So this is going to go and get them Karakas. Sure, so shuffled our graveyard in. I see. So these are only 1/2s now. So we have an Abrupt Decay in our deck, so we are going to make this, and it takes 2 turns for them to get a Karakas here, so because this only gets it tapped. Keep the one without counters on, and then this will make us 20/20. So we're going to kill our opponent's Endurance, a crop rotation that we can't use. We can play out our Thespian stage though. Go to attacks. So our opponent can go and get another Endurance this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. They have 6 mana, so they need 4. And they need this. So they can go and get Endurance and a Karakas this turn. I'm just playing out a Llanowar Elves. I guess that's free because of the Cradle. That makes sense. They can only use this at sorcery speed, so they have to go and get an Endurance now. They might only have the 1 Endurance in their deck. Just attacking with that guy. Interesting. Okay, we'll take it. So I would like a copy of Cradle, please. Our opponent can sacrifice this to fizzle the ability with their Reclaimer, but that's not going to be winning them the game here. They might just want to stop me having more mana, but the mana's not really doing anything for us now. But it gives our opponent a decision point, which could force them to make an error, and it's also the right thing to do for us because it'll make this tap for 3 mana if I need mana for it. Cool. What we got here? An Abrupt Decay. That's pretty good if they have an Endurance or some type of effect like that. We can also Abrupt Decay and give our guy protection. So I think we have this sewn up now. So we can Abrupt Decay the opposition agent. What have we got? An Endurance with 2 mana floating. Is our opponent going to have a Sejiri Steppe is the question. They can go and get with the Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, let's see what our opponent goes for here. This might just be the Karakas. Okay, yeah, so we have the game now. We just kill this and bash him for 20. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. There we go. Excellent. So, now we're on to sideboarding. Some of these cards do things. The opposition agent is going to be good here. The Dark Blast and the Right of Consumption have some real text on them. Because we can make a 20/20 and then Right of Consumption it away straight away, so our opponent never gets to Karakas it away. Because as soon as we get priority, we just sacrifice it. So that's pretty good. The Pithing Needle is pretty decent here. Like, pretty much our whole deck looks quite decent here. We could board in these Leyliners of the Void, but I don't think we need that much Graveyard Hate. This would be a matchup where the Greens on Zenith would be good as well. The Karakas here isn't going to do a lot. I think that's one we can board out. Our removal is going to be good here. Our Thoughtseize is going to be good because we need to hit the natural order out of our opponent's hand. So the Karakas becomes an opposition agent. That's straightforward enough. The crop rotations are good, but our opponent is playing an opposition agent, so we have to be very careful about when and how we use that. Our opponent could be bringing in Collector Roofs, so I don't mind boarding out a Mox Diamond for another opposition agent, and then we've got these 3. So this lets us machine gun down quite a lot of their stuff. So maybe we could be looking at stripping out Mox Diamonds here and just playing a more control-y route, like this. This way we dodge Collector Roof aside from the Expedition Map, but Expedition Map is just 1 card, whereas if we have a Mox Diamond, we're pitching a land to it as well. So this could be a really easy 2-for-1 for our opponent, and we've got more 1-drops now, so we need less chance to accelerate out with a Mox Diamond. So I think we're playing more control in this matchup. So let's submit like this. I'm slightly ahead on the clock. This hand can blow stuff up, but it doesn't really do anything. I think we mulligan. That's one hell of a hand. We'll keep this. And we have to get rid of one of these cards. It's probably going to be the Shadowspear. So I think we're turn 1. We play Urborg Expedition Map. Urborg Expedition Map. Turn 2, we play out the Hexmage and Dark Depths. We'll see what our opponent's Elvish Reclaimer is going to do. Okay, so cracking their Windswept Heath now for a Bayou. They're just holding open their Elvish Reclaimer. So I think we play out our Dark Depths here. We play the Hexmage out. So our opponent can go and get a Karakas here. But we don't need to play things out immediately, and if we draw one other mana source, we can Boseiju the Karakas before we make our 20/20. They get a Wasteland here, and they try to Wasteland it, we can do it in response. Okay, this might just be an acceleration into Natural Order type turn, or trying to accelerate so they can cast the Endurance to survive a turn. But I think you just go and get the Karakas there, right? That seems the safe bet. Then again, they might not know how much protection we have in our deck. But they have to imagine a Sejiri Steppe because they've seen crop rotation. Okay, they naturally had the Karakas. That's less good for us. Now they have to keep this open all the time. They should only have one Karakas in their deck. Okay, Verdant Catacombs is pretty good for us. I think this turn we play out the forest here. And our plan is to Boseiju their Karakas at end of turn and make a 20/20. Now what they can do here is they can go and get a Wasteland. Okay, I was thinking they could go and get a Wasteland with their Reclaimer to then Wasteland this to force us to make it into the Karakas. But we have the layer of protection we probably need. Elvish Visionary, sure. Just pop that out. I feel relatively confident with the position we're in, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Elvish Visionary, sure. Okay. I imagine this Reclaimer is coming in this turn. Can have a Bayou. An Elvish Mystic, sure. Don't care about that. So we will Boseiju away their Karakas and then make a 20/20. They've conceded. Alright, so we managed to get the win there. It's pretty good. I do love playing depth decks with Hex Mages in. Like when I've been playing the ones that are just like Thespian stages anyway to make it, it doesn't quite feel as good to me. But I do like just having the oops, here we go button. Alright, let's go into round 2. So this is our opening hand. This is a turn 1 Dark Confidant into a turn 2 20/20, if my maths holds, which is pretty good for us, so we'll keep it. The Sejiri Steppe is an easy one to go as well. So let's play out our Mox Diamond, discard the Sejiri Steppe, play this out, play out our Dark Confidant. We do need another land actually, thinking about it, because this doesn't tap for any mana, the Dark Depths. Opponent's played a basic Plains. It's a very nice basic Plains. Let's see what we draw. Bob gets us a Karakas, and then we also have a Verdant Catacombs. So step 1 I think is attack with Dark Confidant. I think step 2 is probably play out the Karakas here. Reason being is they might play a Thalia which we can bounce, but we can always crop rotate this away anyway, and we just need any other land to make our 20/20 next turn. An Ancient Tomb. A White Plume Adventurer. Do I care about a White Plume Adventurer? Probably not. The issue is if our opponent has removal in hand. That's the thing that's probably going to get us the most here. Because our Sejiri Steppe is in the graveyard, we can't really utilise that. We can turn our Karakas into a land that lets us tap for mana with our Dark Depths, which means if we draw another crop rotation we'll be alright, but I think we're best off just untapping and seeing what the Bob finds us. A Thoughtseize. That's a pretty good one. And another Thoughtseize. Okay, so this taps for white, so colourless effectively. Then this taps for green. We crop rotate. I think this is how do we do that? So we play this out. We can make the 20/20. If we crop rotate the Karakas away, we can get an Urborg. So we'll have 1 mana here, 2 mana here. Yeah, that works. We get to cast a Thoughtseize this turn, but we have to make the Thespian stage on our turn. If I can do maths, well, that's fine. So, sacrifice this, get ourselves an Urborg, play this out. This will Thoughtseize our opponent. Our opponent doesn't have any way of... Oh, they have a Karakas. That's a real pain. That's a real pain for us, isn't it? Yikes. Guess we hit the Dungeoneer because we're going to end up playing a longer game, I suppose. And since we're here, I think we probably just strip out their other card, since we can't actually go off this turn. So our opponent's got 5 cards in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we don't get to do the play we wanted to this turn because of the Karakas in our opponent's hand. So what we could have done is we could have Thoughtseized first and seen, or if we'd have played out the Verdant Catacombs first, we could have Thoughtseized and then crop rotated away for a Ghost Quarter, but we still don't get to make it this turn. So this is a 5/5, which is not the smallest clock. We're not blocking here. It does get to untap, unfortunately, every turn. We can draw an Abrupt Decay and just start getting damage in. They played a Plains instead of a Karakas. What a tease. I guess they are thinking they don't need it immediately. So we could be dead quite soon. a Dark Depths. Let's see what we draw. A Life from the Loam. So we can Karakas, we can Sejiri Steppe here. If we Sejiri Steppe, we steal the initiative. How useful is stealing the initiative right now? Not sure it really gets us where we need to be going. They do get to trap us next turn. We get to draw a card out of our deck. They could still trap us. They will definitely play out the Karakas this turn. They simply have to. Life mode is probably going to be the quickest way of finding. We get to see 3 cards a turn, but they can't hit our tutor effects. If we pay these 2 out to go and get Sejiri Steppe, give this guy pro white, attack them, steal the initiative, then they hit us for 5, and then they deal 5 damage that way. So we can't do that as a plan. What can we do here is the question. I guess we can hope our opponent makes a mistake. It's not a great situation to be in. But it's one that we're kind of in. So if they don't play out the Karakas before attacks, then we can make a 20/20 at least gobble up the white plume. I suspect that won't work, and our opponent will just play out the Karakas. But stranger things have happened. Now, they could just have drawn a Seasoned Dungeoneer and kill us. Yep, sure. So we were very unlucky to win that game. They happened to have a Karakas in hand, which is really unfortunate. We played around them having the thing they have more of, which is removal spells. They've got Solitude and usually some amount of Touch of the Spirit Realm and Swords to Plowshares. So we played around their removal, but it turned out they had a Karakas. So that was a bit awkward. And then they just drew the Seasoned Dungeoneer here, which we could have done with another draw. Yeah, so we had the Needle next turn for the Karakas. So that's annoying. So we won the right of consumption because our opponent is a Karakas deck. The Opposition Agent isn't going to do very much here. The Dark Blast isn't going to do very much here. Virtue's Ruin, though. That's going to be real good. The Null Rod can definitely hit our opponent's Chrome Moxes and stuff, but it's not that exciting. Bojuka Bog doesn't really have text in this matchup, so we can cut that one. The Karakas, Sejiri Steppe, the Ghost Quarter, these all do things in the matchup, so we have to keep these. The Expedition map is a little bit slow here, as is the Life from the Loam. We didn't show our opponent the Life from the Loam, though. The Abrupt Decays look really nice here. The Reclaimers seems good. The Pithing Needle names Touch of the Spirit Realm as a general rule, so that seems pretty good too. The Shadowspear is good on our 2020s. I don't know if it's going to be good on our as a Saga tokens. I don't think that's a game we can play here. I think we're probably boarding out the Shadowspear, and then we have a choice of what the other things are. I think the Expedition map is too slow to keep here, so I think we board that out as well. And although it can fetch us the Boseiju, which is very real here, is that good enough? Probably better than having all these Loams. What does this hand do? This hand makes a turn 3 2020. It makes a turn 2 Dark Confidant and turn 3 2020. Is that good enough? Honestly, I don't know. Hard to say. I'm kind of leaning towards no. If we draw a Hexmage, you can make a turn 2 2020. I think we can keep this one. So we lead out on the Urborg here. It does shut us off from being able to cast a crop rotation on turn 1 if we do that. But it means if we draw a Hexmage, we go off on turn 2. Our opponent's mulligan to 6, which is pretty standard for this deck. Right, so we'll play out this Urborg. This means our opponent's Ancient Tombs can tap for colourless mana without hurting them. Our opponent did not have a turn 1 drop. That's pretty good for us. Thoughtseize. So now, are we looking at Thoughtseize or are we looking at playing the Dark Confidant? I think we should be Thoughtseizing our opponent here. And then we can play out the Verdant Catacombs. So our opponent has Touch of the Spirit Realm and these things that don't really matter. So we'll take the Touch of the Spirit Realm. And we'll play out this Verdant Catacombs. We'll crack it now, get ourselves Bayou, because we're going to sack it anyway. So next time we make a 2020, our opponent has no answer to a 2020 in their hand. They have 2 draw steps to find it. Ancient Tomb. White Plume Adventurer. Sure. This doesn't quite kill us, so that's nice. Let's sacrifice our Bayou for a Thespian stage. What's that turn? Sure, you can untap your creature. A Boseiju. Our opponent doesn't play Wasteland, so we don't need to make it right now. Our opponent has 2 mystery cards in their hand once they draw for the turn. Sure. Our opponent has a Karakas, so they just happen to have drawn off the top. Yikes. Pretty unlucky. So we don't actually have the green mana now, which is pretty annoying. An Abrupt Decay that we can cast if we play the Boseiju. And our opponent responds with Seasoned Dungeoneer. I think we lose this game if we don't play out the Boseiju like this, which is really annoying. Our opponent just happened to have the things they needed this game. So I think we tap these two to make ourselves a Dark Confidant. So our opponent might hold up for the Seasoned Dungeoneer. I might hold up the Karakas, but they can play the Plains in their hand and still play the Seasoned Dungeoneer, which is a real pain for us. So green and black. Oh, there's Karakas there. If we draw a Pithing Needle, we might not win still. Oh, I hate playing against this initiative deck, to be honest. It's a very repetitive experience because of the way the Undercity works. An Abrupt Decay doesn't do it for us. A Crop Rotation. This gives us a 20/20 as long as the Throne of the Dead 3 doesn't kill us. We can steal the... We can get the initiative if we want here. But that's not really going to win us the game, is it? So we have to play this out. We Crop Rotation for Ghost Quarter. Hit the Karakas. Yikes. Okay, our opponent gets to Throne of the Dead 3 here. Which is going to be bad news for us. Sure. So they're probably going to put the Archon of Amira into play. Or the Elite Spellbinder. Those are the two best things they can put into play. Because they have flying. There is the Archon of Amira. Oh, we've made a mistake here as well. We, non-basic lands enter tapped here, don't they? What we should have done is crack this in response to get the Ghost Quarter. Because now we don't get to do that. Yikes. Can we win this game? I don't know if we can now. Yeah, we messed that turn up. So we're now looking to draw Rite of Consumption is how we win this game now. Let's just think. I think we have to kill our Dark Confidant here, which is awful, and then draw Rite of Consumption. That wins us the game. That does not do it. So if we'd have got the Ghost Court response and we take out the Karakas, we get to play our 20/20 this turn, which gets blocked by the Archon of Amira, and then we get killed by the Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we didn't actually have a way of winning this game, I don't think. Because we needed a Crop Rotation to then go and find a Sejiri Steppe. So we could have been trying to draw live to Sejiri Steppe. Sure. Yeah, okay, so if we did the play correctly like I wanted to, we still lose that game. We got super unlucky there. Our opponent top decked the Karakas on the last possible turn, which is pretty annoying. And the previous game, they happened to have the Karakas as well when we played around their removal. So pretty annoying. I really dislike this White Adventure deck, to be honest. It doesn't feel very... The games aren't great as a general rule. They tend to play one creature and, well, as you saw, if they play a turn 1 White Plume Adventurer, that beats a turn 3 20/20. Like, that can beat a turn 2 20/20, which is a bit gross, to be honest. All right, let's go into the third round and stop whining. All right. So we're on the play. We have Thoughtseize into Dark Confidant. This seems like a good hand. Good old-fashioned magic. Let's see what you're working with. Okay, they're casting their Once Upon a Time in response, which means they're probably looking for a land off of it. Yeah, there it is. So this is a pretty standard looking elves setup. We can take the Heritage Druid, or we can take the Visionary. The Green Sun's Zenith can just go and get the other one anyway. But we may as well make them pay more mana for it. I think we take the Heritage Druid as the quickest way of slowing them down. The quickest way of slowing them down, that's a weird phrasing. But yes, I know what I mean. A Bayou off of Verdant Catacombs into the Birchlaw Rangers. Sure. This is a matchup where the Dark Blast should come in pretty handy in the sideboard. Oakley dokely. So, what is the play here? We can make a 20/20 on our opponent's next turn. So, I think we just go ahead and do that. This probably gets us a Bayou. I think we're incentivized to just play this guy out now. And the next turn we can Crop Rotate for our creature and also play out an Expedition map. And if we draw another land, we can play out a Dark Confidant instead. A Dryad Arbor. One of the Dryad Arbors we knew about. A Mox Diamond doesn't really take us anywhere right now, does it? So I think we are playing our Expedition map and we're attacking with our Hexmage. It's got first strike, so we should be good here. So our opponent can have a Cradle turn and maybe get us. We can instant speed make a 20/20, which can soak up a lot of damage from a Crate Hoof Behemoth, though. Well, it can soak up exactly 20 damage, but if the Crate Hoof is 20, then we're going to lose the game, right? So if they have a Cradle here to follow this up, then we're in trouble. Well, not necessarily in trouble, but we could lose this game. a Nettle Sentinel. Sure, that doesn't do anything. And the Dryad Arbor we know about. Sacrifice this. Go and get ourselves a Dark Depths. Go and get ourselves a Merit Lage. And bash our opponent for 20. Sure, so that worked quite well. So, now what are we looking at? The Dark Blasts here are going to be useful. The opposition agent has text. Pretty good text, in fact, because we get to hit their Green Sun Zenith and their Natural Order. So basically, the best cards in their deck. The Pithing Needle here can stop Boseiju, which is a card that they play. It can stop Wirewood Symbiote, so that seems like things we want to deal with. The Shadowspear is probably not necessary. The Karakas isn't really going to have any targets. And the Ghost Quarter, our opponent can have a Karakas of their own, so the Ghost Quarter is fine for that. Some of these builds run like crop rotation-y type things. How many turns do we think we're going to get with a Dark Confidant in play? Not that many, I don't think. So we're probably looking at trimming those guys. And this is more or less where we are probably going to land. Although the Dark Depths does help. The Dark Blast does help with the ability to make the game stretch out a little bit. So maybe we're looking at slowing down a touch, getting rid of maybe an Expedition map, possibly trimming a Mox Diamond. The Mox Diamond does let us ramp out our opposition agents, so that's probably is one of the Dark Confidants here. We don't just want to get killed by the elves turning sideways plan of our opponent. What does our opening hand do here? Our black mana comes in tapped, which is a real burden. And we don't have access to green mana. I think we should mulligan this. This has an Urza Saga hand, so I can make Urza Saga from turn 2. I can start making tokens with Pithing Needles in play to name Wirewood Symbiote and potentially Elvish Reclaimer if our opponent has them. That seems okay. We have a Ghost Quarter, so I think we're probably getting rid of a Pithing Needle here, which we can always go fetch with the Urza Saga anyway. We have the Ghost Quarter, which can hit a Cradle if they play it out early and pass a turn. Now, that's not necessarily something the elf player is going to do. They're probably going to save their Cradle for when they go off. Bayou into an elf. Okay, so this is a Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor. I'd very much like to draw a Thoughtseize or a Dark Blast. An Elvish Reclaimer. Does that change what we do on turn 1? I think it probably does. So we want to play out the Mox Diamond here. I think we're getting rid of the Ghost Quarter. This is making us a green mana for our Elvish Reclaimer. So next turn we can Reclaimer away one of our lands to get us the combo for next turn. So it doesn't matter which land we rotate away. We do need more mana here. I think we still play out the Saga here. And we cast this. And we name the Wirewood Symbiote. That can hopefully slow down our opponent's most powerful draws, where they just constantly replay things and get themselves out. So they're more likely to fizzle. Okay, so we named the Wirewood Symbiote that they had in hand. Excellent. Query on Ranger. Sure. That's the other one that I would be tempted to name. Okay. Nettle Sentinel. Pretty decent turn from our opponent there. A Dark Confidant. So this turn we can play out the Thespian stage and get a Dark Depths to try and kill our opponent the turn after, which I don't mind. So the writing is kind of on the wall with what we're doing. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. If our opponent has the ability to do a Glimpse Chain this turn, then we're in trouble. But they can't replay elves because Wirewood Symbiote is taxed underneath the Pithing Needle. It's a lot of mana. Is this a Green Sun Zenith or something big? 7 mana. This is just going to be a straight up Crater Hoof. So this is just a Crater Hoof from hand, which probably kills us, right? So this is, what, 20, 30, about 30-ish damage? Yeah, I think we are dead here, so we can scoop this one up. All right. I don't think there's any problems with the way we sideboarded. Is there an argument for having our Expedition map back? Because it's something we can get off Urza Saga. I don't think Urza Saga is a worthwhile way to try and win this game, to be honest. I think we just submit as is. What does our hand do? Nothing. We need to mulligan. What does this hand do? This hand has a Dark Blast and a Pithing Needle. And we only need 1 card to combo off. So we can keep this, bin off our Thespian stage, and say done. So we lead out the Urborg in case we draw the Dark Depths, and we just hold open a Dark Blast, kill every single play they make until we can kill them. Which is showcasing the more controlling side of this deck. I do like Dark Blast. It's a card that's really fallen out of favour. I'm a big fan of it. So they're cracking the Misty Rainforest. Our opponent can have Thoughtseizers in their deck, It doesn't look like that's what they're going to cast on this turn. Allosaurus Shepherd, sure. No more Allosaurus Shepherd. So, do we dredge? I think we dredge here. Sure. That's fine by me. So, I think we're playing out our Thespian stage here. And I think we can just cast our guy here. An Elvish Visionary, sure. That's a Dark Blastable target. I'll dredge a Dark Blast. We keep doing it until we basically dredge the Life from the Loam, I think, right? This one out. We'll crack this for a basic forest, since it's going to be a Bayou with the Urborg in play anyway. Then we go to tax here. We have options what we name with a Pithing Needle. We can name Wildwood Symbiote, which I don't think we need to do. We can name Grist, which is probably the scariest thing that they could put to play right now. So I think we probably just name the Grist here. And we're just going to keep pecking away at our opponent's stuff. We can kill 2 1/1s this turn. A Glimpse of Nature. Sure. Another Glimpse of Nature. We'll kill this guy in response, in case they have like a Birch Law or something. Okay, so what is this doing for us? So this is basically them drawing drawing 2 cards. These are probably just going to be cycles, these Glimpse of Natures. A Birch Law Ranger, sure. So we've stopped our opponent from being able to tap. Obviously we could do it in response to this anyway. So we will kill this with this. Dark Blast to hand, to keep attacking. Every card I draw is movable until I can draw the Thespian stage now, which is what we're looking to until we put the Life from the Loam in the graveyard. A Dryad Arbor, sure. An Allosaurus Shepherd, sure. No more Allosaurus Shepherd. I'd like to draw a Dark Blast, please. Let's pop our graveyard out just so we can see when we get the thing going. Would have been nice to have a Dark Confidant or something in play first. Do we want to kill our opponent's Dryad Arbor this turn? I think we probably do. We've killed a lot of elves. This Dark Blast doing work. Once upon a time, sure. It's like our opponent's whole turn to do that. Heritage Druid. Sure, that's a creature I'm more than happy to kill. This Cradle is unlikely to be good unless they can make a lot of guys in one turn. They need to make more than one creature in one turn. So they probably don't need to. They probably shouldn't be playing this out, to be honest. Give them an opportunity to block with the Heritage Druid if they want. Just do this now because why not? At some point we're going to hit our Life from the Loam, then we can make a 20/20. And then we're all good. They're cracking their Wooded Foothills for a Dryad Arbor. Are they natural ordering this turn? Now, Green Sun's anything for 3. So this is probably going to be the Endurance. So they're going to shuffle our graveyard back. Okay, it's the Grist. But we have that covered with our Pithing Needle. So an interesting play for sure. And if our opponent ever gets to remove our Pithing Needle, we can just pop the Hexmage and kill the Grist immediately. Sure. We can do that if they want. Now we have the onboard Hexmage. They might have forgotten that Hexmage can target things other than Dark Depths, because it doesn't come up that often. We're still going for the Dark Blasts. They're still good. Attack our opponent. Yeah, this is fine. If they have an Endurance, we can kill it, because we have 2 Dark Blasts in hand. Power of First Strike compels me. Kind of feel sorry for my opponent here. It's not a very fun one. A Crop Rotation. Okay, so we can make a 20/20 now, if we want to. I don't even know if we have to. Like, I feel pretty happy in the situation we're in. And if they do manage to do something with their Grist, maybe that's not something... A Heritage Druid, sure. Kind of want them to play out a second thing here, so I know that we don't have to worry about the rest. Natural Order. It could be any creature. Any green creature. So I think we let this go through. Could be the thing that doesn't let me cast spells. Okay. Do I care about this Endurance? No, I don't. Our opponent has no cards in hand. I think we Crop Rotate away. We probably Crop Rotate away the Thespian stage, weirdly, here. Just because of the situation we're in. Okay, so they're scooping it up. They can block with the Endurance for a turn. Because I can only -3 the Endurance. So I can minus it, go to my draw step, minus it. But, obviously, I've got them coming and going here. So this game was brought to you by your friend of mine, Dark Blast. The Ravnica Classic. Alright, so that's 3 rounds in the book, so let's jump into the next one and keep it going. This hand is a turn 2 Dark Confidant, and if I draw a Dark Depths, I get to go pretty hard, but I'm on the play, so I don't really get to contribute to the game until turn 3. I think that is just too slow here. This is kind of a similar hand, but we have a Pithing Needle that we can fire off on turn 1, so I think we can keep this one. And what are we looking to bin off here? How good do I think this Urza Saga is actually going to be? It might be pretty good. Maybe we're looking at getting rid of the swamp here. We might be cold to Wasteland, but we can always play a Pithing Needle on Wasteland. if our opponent shows us wastelandy type things. A basic mountain. That's like goblins or some sort of red stompy, most likely. Makes me wonder what I'm supposed to play out my what my Pithing Needle was supposed to be. Like, we're not very good against Wasteland, are we? Let's be honest. Let's just name Wasteland. If it's goblins, we'll be happy that we've named Wasteland there. Again, not ideal, but we do have a little bit of interaction in the form of Abrupt Decay, and we can slap down our Dark Confidant and start drawing some cards. Urza, Saga, and Mountain. Not a combo I'm used to seeing very often. Could be Painter. Yep, okay, so it's Painter's Servant. Alright, so this Abrupt Decay will come in clutch later on down the line. I hope. Mishra's Research Desk. Okay, so they're going for the value here. Elvish Reclaimer. I think we are looking at... we're going to get a basic forest here. And I think we just play out the Dark Confidant. I think it's the best thing we can do. Our opponent is not threatening the win next turn. They can do it the turn after when there is a Saga pops. That's certainly a possibility. But we can sit on our Abrupt Decay and try and stump our opponent because they might play with like a blast up, and we can just go sail right through that and just Abrupt Decay the Painter or whatever. We can also play out the Reclaimer next turn if we draw another green source. I think we need to be holding up our Abrupt Decay on our opponent's next turn. This Mishra's Research Desk seems quite slow to me. It's 2 mana, but you do get to look at 2 cards with it, I guess. Okay, so our opponent has a Grindstone. Wish I'd have named Grindstone with a Pithing Needle. But they're not making tokens to... Okay, so have a Welder as well. Welder as well. Sure. So that's our turn. We get to draw an additional card because Dark Confidant is a good Magic the Gathering card. And we draw on a Thespian stage. So this is actually good for us, I think. The question is, what are we playing out here? I think we play out the Urza Saga because we know it can get us a Pithing Needle down the line. Then we play out the Mox and we'll discard our Thespian stage. And then I think we use this to play out our Reclaimer just in case anything happens to any of our artifacts. And we pass the turn. We can Elvish Reclaimer if we need to. Our opponent can Pithing Needle our Elvish Reclaimer here, which is a little bit bothersome. But they have 1, 2, 3. It's a case of whether or not I think our opponent can Abrupt Decay us this turn. I think we just let this go this turn. I don't want to get killed. Okay, they just got a Lotus Petal. Okay. An Ancient Tomb. So it looks like they might be trying to go off this turn. Goblin Engineer. So this is going to go and put a Painter in the graveyard. If I had 1 more mana, I could then Bojuka Bog as well. But because they have double things, what they're going to do here is Grindstone, target us. Then they sacrifice it to the Welder to put in the Painted Servant. So now they have this, and they're going to choose black. So if we kill off this costs them mana to activate, so they won't have a second artifact. So we just snap this off with a green and a black mana. And they can't Pyroblast if that's what they're holding up for with the Petal. But they can swap this to get some more value for next time. And then we mill 2. Oh, Bojuka Bog got milled. That's really frustrating. That was an annoying one to get milled because we were going to go and fetch that next turn to get rid of the Painter. Not a fan of that, but sometimes the heart of the cards can betray you. A Crop Rotation. Does that give us any useful outs? This Bojuka Bog being in our graveyard has really screwed us over. Just think, is there a way we can shuffle it back in? Trying to think of any solutions we have. Our Urza Saga is too slow to get a Pithing Needle here. This Bojuka Bog has really ruined our plans. Just looking at our deck list, seeing if there's anything that helps us out here. We have Boseiju, but it goes into play, not into our hand, so that doesn't work. Play out our Bayou. And play out our Vampire Hexmage. Perhaps our opponent can make a mistake. Seems unlikely. They can do it at instant speed as well. Sacrifices Bayou. And now they're going to hold priority and then weld in thing. Yep. We lose the game because we milled the Bojuka Bog. I think we win that game every other time. Alright, so Null Rod is going to be pretty good here. Opposition Agent also going to be pretty good here. Lead on the Void definitely has some relevant text. The rest of it, not really convinced by. So, what is going to be bad? The Shadowspear is okay here. I don't actually want a lot of artifacts in this matchup, weirdly. I think that's a liability. I like the Dark Confidant, I like Thoughtseize. Like the Reclaimers. The Karakas doesn't do anything here. Bojuka Bog is very good. The Ghost Quarter hits as a Saga, so that's good. This is the only land that can come out. Pithing Needle, very good. Shadowspear, not so good. Now they can just Urza Saga us out the game. And the Shadowspear lets us combat that. But if we're boarding these out, what else are we getting rid of? Just another artifact. Just getting rid of all our artifacts and bringing in the Null Rod. That makes sense to me. I'm in that Bojuka Bog though. Very cruel. So this is gonna need some help before it does anything. It's a little bit slow. If we draw any mana source, I think we can keep this. Our opponent's mulligan to 6. Let's put these both into play. So our opponent will not get to hit us with get any sort of welder action going here. Grindstone. So we've got their welders and their grindstone covered. We do need to win the game at some point though. An Ancient Tomb. Assuming Spirit Guide, Fable the Mirror Breaker. Okay, so they have the Blood Moon. That's a little bit awkward for us. But not the end of the world. So we have a green source, which is welcome. Getting a black source might be more difficult. It shuts off our opponent's Urza Sagas as well as our own. But they might just be on the beat us down with these things. So now if we ever get rid of the Magus, we have a 2020. We kind of need to draw our basic swamp. Would be a start. This makes me wish I had the Expedition map in, just as an additional chance of drawing something. A crop rotation. So this gives us black mana if we want it, which we probably do. So we can do that in combat. We can play the opposition agent and then kill our opponent's Magus of the Moon and make a 2020, which I like. They did not attack this turn. Interesting. A Painter's Servant, you say. Does this impact what we're doing here? I think it does. I think we want to do this in response. Crop rotate, get rid of this Bayou. We'll go and get ourselves a basic swamp. And then we'll cast this. We're doing this before our opponent gets Red Blast. Not that that's necessarily going to make a difference because they can still Red Blast this anyway. Kind of hoping they'd attack that turn and we could get them, but was not the case. Play this out. Our opponent can't really attack us. They can't really grindstone us either because we have the Pithing Needle. We're kind of at a weird stalemate where if I draw an Abrupt Decay, I win. If our opponent draws, I don't know, Favour the Mirror Breaker, that probably breaks this game open for them. Or they can just slowly go up the curve until they hit Fury. That's also fine. Not fine, but... Okay, so now we need 2 Abrupt Decays. That's going to be a little bit trickier. An Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, so this can be the biggest creature on the board pretty easily. We'll play this out into the bin to pump our Reclaimer. We're in an okay-ish spot here. Not a great spot, but an okay-ish one. We get to thin our deck out every turn for a land with this guy. We're just going to turn fetch lands into fetch lands into fetch lands until we can actually draw something good, like our Abrupt Decays or a Dark Confidant, which can then draw us into more things. Okay, so evoking a Fury. This is pretty bad for us. Not massively happy with how this game. We're going to need some action. A Dark Depths. That's not action. So our opponent's got a 3-turn clock on us right now, but they might be able to hardcast a Fury next turn. Yavimaya. It's a land. No point keeping it in our hand. So we've got one more draw step to find something. It's going to have to be a good one. Sure. Just a beatdown guy. And a Thespian stage. We are done. Alright, we are done here with this game, so we're going to concede. Just saying GG to our opponent and laughing about the bot getting milled. Alright, final round, let's go. Our opponent is on a Yorion deck. We are on the play. This is our opening hand. I think I can't keep this hand. I need more mana. This is a hand I can deal with. I will keep this. And we've got to put one of these cards on the bottom. It's probably going to be an Abrupt Decay. So we have 2 choices. We can play out a Bayou and crop rotate for a turn 2 2020, which is something I would like to do. Our opponent is unlikely to see it coming, and this also insulates us against the wasteland that they just fire off on our Bayou straight away. Now, if our opponent is a blue Yorion deck, then that might prove slightly more challenging. This is our only green source, though, so I think we don't do it now because our opponent had access to. Oh, now we're in a spot actually. I think we do have to crop rotate here. This gets us an Urborg. This plays us a Dark Depths. Now we can either go for it here or we can play the Dark Confidant. If our opponent has a Source to Plowshares, one of these is much better than the other. Well, they're both kind of similar. I think we just play this out. Now, if our opponent has a wasteland, they can't actually fire it off unless they have this plow and the wasteland. But sometimes your opponent will have it, and there's nothing you can do about that. Let's see what transpires this turn. The second plains, not a wasteland. So they can't really tap out unless they have Solitude in hand. Okay, so they didn't want to play chicken with me, basically. So, alright. Death and Taxes. I would like these kill all white creatures spells. The Dark Blast here has a decent amount of targets. It has Flicker Wisp, it has Thalia, it has... You can double up to kill 2/2s as well. You can kill Recruit of the Guards. Opposition Agent is going to be okay here, and the Rite of Consumption is going to be good versus the Karakas. What here is going to be bad is the question. The Pithing Needle is going to be pretty essential. I think the Thoughtseize can take out plows, so we probably want that. Again, we're in an awkward spot where our deck is just kind of tuned relatively well to this matchup, and we just have to work out what goes. I don't think we're on a Shadowspear game here. That gives us one option. Are we playing a slower game? Are we getting rid of these expedition maps? Maybe we play a slower game here and board out these Mox Diamonds. Keep boarding out Mox Diamonds, which feels so weird to do, but I think it's right. Oh, we have a Bojuka Bog that we don't need in the main deck. This is fine. Like, we're boarding in 1-drops, so we have more stuff. The opposition agent is going to be harder to do anything with if we don't have the Mox Diamonds, but we have more time in this matchup, so I think we can submit like this. Mox Diamonds can help against Wasteland type effects as well, which is another reason why we may want them. The Tower of the Magistrate can also hit our opponent's equipment, so there's definitely an argument for this. This is probably better than an Urza Saga in this matchup. Let's submit this deck, maybe. I don't think we can have the Mox Diamonds in this setup without losing some of our business spells. I think we're just better off just doing the business spells here. We're not under pressure to combo off super quick. We have the Virtue's Ruin, which is nice, but we can't really do anything with the rest of our hand. Is this keepable just for the Virtue's Ruin and drawing black mana? We're on the draw. We have a lot of options to get there. Any green source gets us there too. I think we're supposed to keep this. It looks bad though, but I think we can keep this because our opponent isn't going to be killing us quickly. Now, we can just get Wasteland to Oblivion out of this game, which would be annoying. An Aether Vial. Sure, that's one of the worst ones to hit. But our opponent did mulligan quite low, so... Well, a little bit low. So, which of these do we care about getting Wastelanded the most? Probably don't care about the Karakas, so we can just throw the Karakas out, and if our opponent has a Thalia, they can't really play it now. A lot of the lands in our deck make black, so that's fine. Okay, so we have a Stoneforge Mystic. This is probably just going to go and get the Cauldra, just to get a really quick clock going. There it is. We're now unable to really deal with that. Okay, so we have the Bayou now. Play out the Bayou. We can crop rotate if we need to. I don't think that's going to get us anywhere. I think we play out our Elvish Reclaimer. So we can get in a situation where our opponent Recruiter of the Guards, and then we opposition agent to bounce it, to go and get the thing we need. They missed their opportunity to put the Cauldron into attack this turn, which I don't mind. Recruiter of the Guard. We're a little bit shy of this, but we do get to clean up their whole board this turn, if we want to. A Solitude. So we don't actually want to, well, we don't have the mana to do, I think we do just return this to our opponent's hand, because with that in play, we don't have enough mana to Virtue's Ruin anyway. So now we play out this, and then we see what our opponent wants to do. We can Elvish Reclaimer, we can crop rotation, we can do both. So that's not too shabby. But they do have Flicker Wisp as an option, which I'm not a big fan of, but we could go and get an Urza Saga so that we can slowly tick that along. So we have a Karakas. We can go and get ourselves the Tower of the Magistrate as well, which can just nullify the Cauldra quite nicely. Field of Ruin targeting this. Interesting, if true. I think we have choices here. I think we rotate this away for probably the Yavimaya here. This stops our opponent getting the basic as well. So we're going to get rid of our Karakas, which will make our opponent play the Thalia, which we can hopefully pick up with a Virtue's Ruin. It's going to be difficult to do that purely because our opponent has the option of bouncing it with their own Karakas. Just get rid of this. We may as well get Dark Depths at this point. So now we can play out our Urborg, and we can try and snag something with an opposition agent and just turn the game that way. Otherwise, we probably get the Ghost Quarter and then use the Ghost Quarter to mess with our opponent's Karakas. We know they have a Solitude in hand, though. Sure, you can have that one if you want. I will be gracious enough to let you have the 5/5. Our opponent leaving this on 3 makes me think they have a Flicker Wisp. Green and this. Because we have a green source in hand, we're going to get rid of the Yavimaya. We're going to get the Tower of the Magistrate. So we're going to say Forest. Then we probably use black and black to make our Dark Confidant. Now we can Tower the Magistrate when we need to. And if for some reason our opponent puts all their shields down and tries to maybe Solitude our Dark Confidant, then we can always go and make a 20/20 because we have the mana to put this into here. I'm pretty sure we're just going to get rid of the Phyrexian Germ Token though. But we want to do it in attacks so our opponent can't blink it and attack us with it. But let's see how this turn goes. Tower of the Magistrate, doing what we wanted it to do. It's annoying that we can't play the opposition agent now, but our opponent, if they're going to do any sort of recruit the guard stuff, might do it in our turn. They might not be expecting opposition agent. So this is probably the... Okay, they're putting the Yorion into hand. Okay. So when they blink both of these, we can chuck in the opposition agent, and that might force our opponent to use their Solitude. And if we have a second opposition agent that we can play because of the mana we will hopefully draw, then I think we're in a good spot. There we go. There's the mana we wanted to draw. And there's a crop rotation as well. So pretty happy with all of this. We don't need to crack this. It taps for black anyway. I think we just say go here. We can go and get the... what's it called? Ghost Quarter to get rid of a Karakas if we need to. Okay, so they're putting in a guy here. What is it going to be? A Flicker Wisp. Sure. And they're blinking their Recruiter of the Guard. How little they know. Surprised I didn't Flicker Wisp there. Cauldron complete. Just get the guy bashing again. I suppose we can just Tower the Magistrate again. That's why they're not doing it. We can let this hit us. I don't care about this right now. A Mother of Runes. This is going to get cleaned up by our Virtue's Ruin on the next turn. Should be a good turn for us. So they're going to get their Recruiter back. They're going to put his ability on the stack. We are going to cast an Opposition Agent. We have a spare Opposition Agent if this gets killed. I like the spot we're in. We know 2 of our opponent's cards as well. The Yorion and the Solitude. Now they can refuse to search here because it is a May. They're going to Solitude, pitching the Thalia that we knew about as well to kill our Opposition Agent, I imagine. So that's one of the things that we were worried about. Excellent. So we'll let this Solitude do its thing. Go to life. Then we'll cast another one. So our opponent has Yorion plus X in hand. So they will just refuse to search here because it's a May. But it felt like they really wanted something there. And we're going to Virtue's Ruin their whole board away this turn as well. And they're not going to have what I would describe as a good time. 0 damage from the Bob. Doing your job. Okay, so this is black, black. Probably this one as well. Black. We will destroy all white creatures, please. This might get a concession. It's possible. It's very strong. Oakley dokley. So, we'll play this one out. And we can attack them with a 20/20 next turn. They do have this Ether Vial though. I don't think we need to do anything with that just yet. So this is going to put the Yorion into play. Which can blink their Cauldron, but we don't really care about that because we have Tower of the Magistrate in play. So I'm pretty happy with where we are. Iganjo, sure. Green, and we'll get black off this one. We'll sacrifice this Verdant Catacombs. We're going to get ourselves a lovely little Ghost Quarter. The reason we're doing this is so we can save the crop rotation in case we need an immediate way of protecting our guy. So it's a little bit slower, but I think we'll be rewarded for doing it this way. Put this one out. And we don't need to attack our opponent this turn. We know they can flash in a 5/5. 4/5, sorry. There is a Yorion. You're going to blink the Cauldron. They might reset their Ether Vial. They are not resetting their Ether Vial. They don't get to attack with their Cauldron because of when they put it in. If they put it in our main phase, they do. So, Alliance Sash. We don't care about this. You can have your Cauldron back if you want. That's fine by me. We will get rid of your Karakas. You probably don't want to search because I have an opposition agent in play. I will take one of your planes. Ghost Core is a May, isn't it? May, yeah. And still at the end step, I think we will make a copy. Our Dark Depths, tapping Dark Depths mana, and Thespian stage mana. We'll keep the one without counters. Then we can untap. Draw a card. Our opponent has one card in hand, so I think we are okay here. So we'll play out our Dark Depths here. We'll cast this Ruin spell. These are the fine ones to do it with. Sure. So then we got the match. So we got a 3 and 2. So let's have a quick look at the deck and have a little discussion. So the losses we had. We lost to White Initiative, where we Thoughtseize our opponent in one game to play around removal, but they had the Karakas, and we could have played around the Karakas. If we'd have done it the other way around, we might have been able to play around the Karakas by going to get the Ghost Quarter. We kind of ended up not being able to go anywhere. Now, that may seem a little bit unlucky, but the thing you have to realise about White Initiative is that it kills you in about 3 turns. It's faster than half the combo decks in the format, and it's got loads of redundancy. So you don't really have a choice. You have to kind of go for it quite quickly a lot of the time, and sometimes they have it, sometimes they won't. So that one I don't mind losing so much. The second one against Initiative that we lost, we stripped our opponent's removal away. They didn't have a Karakas, and they drew the Karakas the turn we make the 2020, which is very unlucky and unfortunate for us. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. They don't run that many Karakases, so we can feel hard done by on that one. So I think we should have won that game. Like, statistically speaking, we're probably winning that game, but alas, we didn't. So maybe 1-1. So it's not really quite a match win there. So I'm not sure we win against them on the draw either. So we probably do lose that one. Against the Painter deck, we had our Bojuka Bog milled. If the Bojuka Bog stays in our library, we win that game almost every single time. So we can feel definitely hard done by that one. Obviously, they Makers of the Moon us out of the game in game 2, so I don't think we were winning that one. So we probably would have got game 3. So I feel this list is like a 3.5 to 4 wins sort of list today. We were a little bit unfortunate, but the deck felt pretty strong. I will say it's quite hard to sideboard with this deck because it doesn't have that many pieces you can take out. Like, I think you could argue that you're supposed to remove Dark Confidence against the Initiative deck, which I can understand. They're an aggro deck. Maybe that's what we're supposed to do. But we don't have that much to bring in against the Initiative deck is the issue, which is something I think this deck could probably do with rectifying by getting some more ways of dealing with that. Yes, Virtue's Ruin's good, but I don't think we need Hall of Gemstone in this deck. I know what it's good against, but I don't think it's where we need to be. I think just having if we maybe get rid of Dark Confidence, we're boarding in 2 Virtue's Ruin. Maybe if we had another 2, like, I don't know, Virtue's Ruin would probably be fine, to be honest. But we also brought in this Rite of Consumption. And the person who sent me this list didn't want the Rite of Consumption. They wanted a Grafdigger's Cage. But I think the Rite of Consumption is just another card in your deck that lets you play around Karakas. That your opponent never gets priority to Karakas your guy. If you just make the thing, as soon as it comes into play, sack it when you get ability. When you get priority, and your opponent never gets an opportunity to do it. And the decks that run Karakas can't really deal with being doned for the face for 20. So I think that's a good inclusion in the deck, the Rite of Consumption. I think the Hall of Gemstone is probably the thing to tweak here. The Opposition Agent was good. Alternatively, what you could do is you could trim the ley lines and put 3 Endurance in and have 1 spare slot. So you could put in another something good. Now, the issue with doing that is we don't have that many green cards in our deck. So we've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it'd be 16 cards if we had the Endurance. So even pitching it on turn 1 is going to be difficult. And the things we're pitching are going to be really strong. And in the Reanimator match, we're boarding out the Abrupt Decays anyway. So I just don't think the Endurance is what this deck wants. Obviously, it's pretty good against Delver because you're hard casting it rather than pitching it. But as Graveyard Hate, it just doesn't cut the mustard. I think you just need the ley lines. So as for the main deck, it felt fine. Like this deck doesn't have a single answer in it. Well, the Virtue's Ruin is the only answer in it. But in the main deck, we literally can't deal with an opposing Seasoned Dungeoneer. And I think Seasoned Dungeoneer is a big problem. I think that card is... Honestly, I think that card might be too good for Legacy. I think the initiative mechanic is very strong, but having a creature that means that you get to push through the initiative, if it just had that ability on itself, it'd be fine. With the fact that the turn you play it, it guarantees that your creature your other creature connects. I just think it's a little bit much, and we don't have an answer to that, which is a problem. Like, we can try and race it, but it's a very difficult thing to race, and they also have the Archon of Emeria, which is not our friend. So how do I feel about this deck? I think because it seems weak to the initiative decks at the moment, because it's slightly slower depths and our removal doesn't hit the scariest things that they can do. Like we can kill the Archon with the Abrupt Decays, but our removal can just line up the wrong way quite easily, and we don't have a lot of it. So I don't, like, obviously the Virtues Ruin help, but sometimes the game can be over if they're on the play. By the time you get to 3 mana, if you don't have the Mox Diamond, destroying all white creatures, you just lose the game on the next turn anyway. So that might be a problem with initiative rather than this deck. But I think you can't... I think if I was to run a Depths deck in a competitive tournament right now, I would probably run Turbo Depths. Either that or Mono Green Cloudpost, if you consider that a Depths deck. But if we're talking like proper Depths decks, I think the full-on Turbo Depths is the better one, just because you have that speed. So you can race what your opponent's doing, and you have the free protection spells in terms of the 7 mana one that's free if you pitch cast it. If you have a big guy, sorry, so you can just play it for free. Not of this world. I think that is the best version, and also because you have extra mana, you can have a spare crop rotation hanging around, or you can have a spare Thoughtseize to pave the way, or you can, Pithing Needle the right thing. I just think that's going to be a little bit better than this. Now, don't get me wrong, this deck is way better versus some of the things we showed today. So, like Elves, for example, we absolutely slaughtered them with the Dark Blast. It was brutal. The sort of long grindier games where your lands are under threat a little bit, we can pull ahead of that with our Life from the Loams, which is one of the reasons I don't necessarily think we need Hall of Gemstone in the deck, because we can just keep rebuying it, and those decks can only Swords to Plowshares your guys so many times, and we already do have the Bojuka Bog, which we can use to deal with their Uros, and we have the Pithing Needle to deal with their Minsk and Boo. So I don't think the Hall of Gemstone is necessary, and I think that our deck here can plow through with a decent amount of cards. So yeah, I think that's about it for today. So back in the day, like a long time ago, so we're talking pre-Deathrite Shaman, I used to play a lot of green-black depths, like the slow depths. So sort of the period I was playing was up until Elvish Reclaimer got printed. I was playing Elvish Reclaimer a little bit, but the set after, so I don't even know what set Elvish Reclaimer is from. Let's have a little look. M20. So before the set after M20 came out was probably about the time I stopped playing Depths, just because of time constraints and things that were going on. But Depths was a deck I used to play a lot, and it was a slow Depths with Mox Diamonds. Unfortunately, I had to sell my Mox Diamonds and my Tabernacle and all sorts of stuff, so I couldn't really play the slow Depths build anymore. I do like the slow Depths build. I like what it does. I don't think the Urza Saga was ever something that felt good in this deck. I'd be inclined to cut the Urza Saga in favour of just some utility lands of some description, whether you're looking at Glacial Chasm or Maze of Ith, something of that nature. Possibly even a second Sejiri Steppe as an option, but I think the Urza Saga just feels a bit weak, and if you're doing that, then you can trade the Shadowspear in for a third Pithing Needle. And if you're doing that, you can probably get rid of this Expedition map as well, and maybe either have a fourth Pithing Needle or have a third Life from the Loam, might be better. Or you can play what I used to play every now and then, which I really liked in this deck, which isn't for everyone, but that was Raven's Crime. Now, the speed of the format means Raven's Crime might not be good enough anymore, but I used to have a lot of fun just Life from the Loaming back a load of lands and then taking my opponent's hand out completely every turn. So you just mind twist your opponent out of the game and then carry on. So what I probably want instead of these Urza Saga lands maybe is the cycle lands. I really like the cycle lands with Life from the Loam. I just think it gives you so much power, and it also means that the Dark Blast is going to be better in the sideboard, because you can buy it back an additional time in a turn, and you can do that and get your Life from the Loam running. So your Life from the Loam gets you back draws, which gets you back Dark Blast, and you sort of have more resources that way. So yeah, I think you can probably do that. Obviously, they do come in tapped, which is a real, thing to keep an eye on. But the Urza Saga kind of comes in tapped in a lot of ways, in the fact that it's a colorless source. So it's not casting any of these spells at all. It's not casting any of these spells. Now, obviously, you can have an Urborg to help it, but it's not casting a lot of the spells in your deck without additional help. So I don't think you'd miss it if these were the cycle lands. The original list that was sent to me also had a one single wasteland, and I swapped it for a Karakas because we already had the Ghost Quarter. I don't think we need the wasteland, and we're going to be naming wasteland often with Pithing Needle anyway. So I think that's fine. And also, I just really like Ghost Quarter. I'm that sort of guy. But there we go. I think I've discussed this deck more than enough. I think you can improve the list a little bit and sort of shave up your numbers a little bit to get a few more wins on the board. But I really like depth strategy. This is sort of one of the classic ones. Before Turbo was like the big flavour that everyone was playing, this was sort of more like what you were seeing quite often. Sort of a little bit of a grindy Dark Confidant stuff. And who doesn't love Dark Confidant, right? Anyway, that's us done for today. So if you're still watching, hit that subscribe button. It means you've liked my content enough to watch me ramble along at the end. So why not subscribe? I need subscribers. Please do the subscribing. Likes, comments, they all help bump me up the algorithm. And if you know anyone who likes Legacy, send them my videos. And if you know anyone who likes Dark Depths decks, please send my videos to them, because I'm doing loads this month because of Depth December. I've even got a separate playlist on my YouTube channel which takes the Depth December leagues that I'm running into their own channel. If you just want to watch that for Depth December, you can do that, but they're also rolled into my regular Legacy leagues on YouTube. All right, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.